Welcome to Keiser Voices, the story of success, brought to you by Keiser University Graduate School, here where the academic world meets personal triumph. Join us today as we dive into the captivating tales of success.
I'm David Tucker, and I'm a professor of business at Keiser University. I've been working for Keiser University for about 10, 11 years. I teach managerial economics in the MBA program, and then I teach global business in the DBA program. I'm also a member of several doctoral dissertation committees. Right now, I'm chairing, I think, about 5 or 6 of those doctoral committees. And so that's actually one of my favorite things to do is to help students with their dissertations. And got my undergraduate degree in accounting and economics from Harding University in Arkansas. And then I worked in accounting for a while, but decided I wanted to be a teacher. And so I moved to Washington, D.C., got my master's degree from Georgetown University. And my master's is in economics, and then taught for a while, and then took some time off to get my doctorate from the University of Arkansas. And ever since then, I've been teaching. I teach economics and accounting, and right now enjoy teaching for Keiser University. That's me, Jeff. Your turn.
Thank you, Dr. Tucker. Hi, I'm Dr. Jeff Ritter. I teach marketing courses, both graduate and doctoral marketing courses in the program. I have a background in healthcare administration, management consulting, and marketing. As Dr. Tucker is involved, I am also chairing and participating with a number of doctoral dissertations. Looking forward to our engagement and our discussion. I grew up in New York City, undergraduate degree from Baruch College, City University of New York. MBA from Long Island University, and DBA from Nova. And it's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Maybe before we start talking about a culture of innovation, maybe we ought to just define what innovation is. Innovation and creativity. It's a word that has a positive meaning to it. People like to be thought of as innovative. They like to be thought of as somebody with a great deal of creativity. But not all innovation is good. There is bad innovation. And so you have to define innovation as something, the ability to conceive and develop and deliver new products or new processes. But they have to be new products or new processes that meet some sort of financial success. Innovating without any sort of standard for how you're going to measure success is a quick road to bankruptcy. So I think we need to think about first just what innovation is, and is there positive versus negative innovation. Dr. Ritter, I don't know if you want to add to that a little bit.
Sure, Dr. Tucker. I see innovation as a combination of effective communication within the organization, monitoring and focusing on advances in technology when appropriate, including all levels of individuals throughout the organization, sharing important information that's relevant, and being strategic in nature. And I know that's being rather general. But again, it depends on the organization, the structure, and what the short and long-term goals are specifically. But in today's environment, from my perspective, it's essential to embrace innovation. I'll turn it back to.
And you said communication right at the very beginning. What do you mean by innovation? It sounds like it needs to be something more than just a single department dedicated in innovation, but it's got to be throughout the organization.
That's a great question. And, David, all I could say is when organizations modify and change direction and embrace innovation, there should be there should be a fair level of communication from the top down and the bottom up in terms of what's happening and why it's happening and what the specific goals and objectives are. I think that's critical for the success of the organization, and developing and enhancing the feedback from different levels within the organization.
In my experience, it's been very common for businesses to say that they want to innovate. I was reading a McKinsey study recently, and something like 80% of all executives say that they want to foster innovation within the company. They want their organization to be innovative. But only about 10% of those same executives felt like that they were doing a good job at fostering innovation. And innovation is just one of those things that, like I said earlier, it's got a good meaning to it. When you talk about innovation, people want to be seen as innovative. It's got a positive meaning to the word. But then actually implementing innovation, actually doing innovation is something that's much more difficult. It's easier to say and much more difficult to execute for various reasons. And I guess we'll probably get into that in just a minute, I guess, Dr. Ritter.
Yeah, Dr. Tucker, I think you raised some good points. The management consulting firms do promote innovation and work with major corporations and organizations to help develop strategies that are necessary and important to not only engage but foster and develop and follow through with innovation. I would add that there needs to be an element of a safe place where you can't make major changes and innovate the entire organization in one fell swoop. I think there needs to be certain projects or initiatives that need to be focused on and managed effectively. And if the innovation is helping the organization move in the right direction, wonderful. If not, modify, change direction, recognize that changes are necessary. I think that in itself is an important element of this entire process of innovation and in fact fostering innovation.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about what you were just talking about, Dr. Ritter, and that is that it's often easy to talk about innovation. Implementing it within an established organization is usually sometimes difficult. You mentioned a safe place for innovation to take place. And that's hard to carve out because most businesses, especially if you have the original entrepreneur still in the business, the man or woman who established the business, they established that business usually based on some sort of innovation. It's usually based on some sort of idea that was theirs, and they took that new idea that they couldn't implement in another company, and so they decided to establish their own company. And so they are moving forward. They're getting their company going based on this innovative idea that they had, and they've established a successful business. It's going well. But as we all know, the pace of change, the pace of innovation is rapid. And for that original entrepreneur to be able to shift from their original idea, which was successful for them, is often really, really difficult. That's why a lot of times you really don't see that innovation take place in an established company until some of the old guard original founders kind of move on, and it's up to some newer folks to be able to establish innovative ideas within the old organization.
Yeah, some great points, David. And I would add that we need to really understand first and foremost what's driving the innovation. Is it competition? Is it customer feedback, consumer feedback? Is it a change in leadership? And what are we trying to accomplish? What are our key goals and objectives? And how do we measure the outcomes and determine, how effective or, quite frankly, how ineffective we are? So I think those things are important factors as well to consider.
Well, and you mentioned how to measure the outcomes. Often very difficult to do. One of my areas is accounting. And we accountants aren't really very good sometimes at being able to measure the changes, the innovative changes, and how those things are generating profit. Because at the end of the day, if an innovation isn't profitable, if an innovation isn't adding value to the company, then it's not a good innovation. I mean, it'll go on to the scrap heap of all the other innovations that have been tried and failed. And if we wanted to make a list of all the failed innovations, I'm sure we could. A good Google search would probably come up with a lot of them. But failing to innovate and failing to engage new processes means the company is just slowly dying. I did read one statistic I wanted to quote. And there was a survey done of 183 companies that were known for being innovative. And so I'm not going to name any specific one, but there were a list of 100 and almost 200 companies that were pretty well known for being innovative, and that the economic profit associated with those was about 2.4 times higher than those that were not innovative. And so, like I said, innovation has a positive aura to it. People like to be known as innovative, but you can have bad innovation. But the good innovations, the new products, the new processes, the new ways of doing things generally are successful because they generate more profit.
Okay, Dr. Tucker, I'm going to throw in the management consulting and the marketing perspective now. So,
okay, good.
Sometimes from a marketing perspective, we need to look strategically at building the brand, building awareness, and it may not initially generate a profit. It could be a long-term initiative that could provide a great deal of goodwill and potentially build the brand for the long term, which is important. And when you consider this process from a management consulting perspective, if you're coming in and working with organizations and delivering ideas and initiatives, one thing for sure is you're going to have to produce some type of quantifiable result. It should be and hopefully will be profitable, but it could impact other elements of the business in a positive way that could potentially lead to a long-term revenue improvement and profitability. So those factors need to be considered also when we talk, and we could also talk about different industries, whether it's, I know we don't have all the time we need, but the automobile industry, the healthcare sector, they're all facing their challenges, and the technology sector as well as others. So what are the key factors that are driving these sectors, and what's happening externally that we have little to no control over in terms of the economy, the environment, the political landscape. So those issues need to be taken into consideration as well.
I know you've done some consulting in the healthcare industry and have been very active in that. I have a question for you. In your experience in the healthcare industry, has the innovation primarily been in products, new medical procedures, or is it in reducing costs of and improving the physical processes so that people are more efficient?
Yes. Yeah, essentially all the above. So, the data analytics are driving decisions in healthcare. Robotics and advanced technologies are improving the quality of surgeries and procedures and addressing various chronic diseases and illnesses, cost factors, reduction in reimbursement from Medicare and Medicaid is a key driver. Focusing on value, focusing on quality, building out ambulatory services, because we know for a fact that you go in for a procedure, generally speaking, you're potentially out the same day or the next day. So the world has changed with regard to how healthcare, depending on what sector of the healthcare industry we're talking about, the provider side or the payer side. So it's a great question, David. A lot of critical factors, but I just read an article about a major corporation that owns hospitals, I believe, up in the Northeast, just filed for bankruptcy today. They were running short on cash. They were having other problems. So, we need to look at this sector and other sectors closely as we consider innovation and other related topics.
Jeff, when you mentioned a hospital filing for bankruptcy, that immediately made me think of our own sector here in education. Education is going through a great deal of change right now. And there's been a lot of small schools that are filing for bankruptcy. There were just two recently that was in that I can't, Mills College, I think, up in New York, and another one, I forget where the other one was, and I forget the name of it. But these are generally small liberal arts schools that have the idea that we want to bring students here on our campus, keep them for 4 years, educate them, and then release them out into graduate school or the world. And that model, which was developed hundreds of years ago, okay, is starting to fail. And those schools that have innovated, and I will have to put a plug in here for Keiser University as well, because Keiser University is one of the first ones to be an early adopter of online learning and providing a quality online experience to our students. Because, and I don't have the statistics with me, I wish that I did, but the number of students who are attending traditional liberal arts schools is declining. It's declining. And a lot of students are opting for cheaper alternatives, and especially for online alternatives. And that in and of itself is an innovation. That's an innovation in higher education that some schools embraced early on and other schools did not. And the schools that did not are realizing that they're behind. We're not where we need to be in terms of the diversity of not just program offerings, but delivery of those programs to our students. And so it's a situation where people failed to keep up with innovative practices. And we could have you probably can think of a couple of other examples of companies that failed to innovate and have gone bankrupt or just not done well.
Well, for great example, David, and I think in education, providing the support, advising, and treating the student as a customer and consumer and meeting and exceeding their expectations is critical. But we've seen what the smartphone has done, specifically Apple. There were a few players in the game prior to Apple. Apple stepped in and changed the entire dynamic, and now essentially have captured the market. There's other great examples. So it's understanding what the consumers want and delivering and providing high levels of quality and value, I think are essential.
Yeah, Adriana is much too young to remember some of this, but I'm old enough to remember when we had one phone in the house, and it was hanging on the wall, and everybody had to use the same number. You had to have a line attached to your phone, and of course, the whole industry has changed, and it's innovative, and companies that didn't keep up with that are now failed. The classic one that is mentioned in most of the textbooks is Blockbuster Video. And again, Adriana is probably too young to remember when there was a Blockbuster Video store on every single corner, but they failed to even keep up with the CDs. And certainly they didn't have the opportunity to keep up with the streaming services that are now available. And so, yeah, all of those are technological changes that are innovative, that some people have kept up with and others have not.
The change from the traditional automobile to electronic vehicles is an ongoing case for review to determine what the long-term success will be or not. But just to get back to Blockbuster, I believe there's one left in the United States. I believe it's in Alaska.
I've read that,
and I think it's doing pretty well.
Because they've still got video recorders up in Alaska, I guess. No offense to all of our listeners who are in Alaska, but I don't know if that one is shut down. Already done that one, but I'd like to talk about it a little bit more because my field is education. I made the decision about 1977 that I wanted to be a college educator. And way back then, I taught my first economics class in 1980, way before you were born, Adriana. And when you taught a college class back then, you taught it by standing in front of students and talking. That was the way that you taught a college class. And now, if I stand in front of students and talk, I lose them in about 15, 20 minutes. You can lecture for about 15 or 20 minutes. And these days, you have to get students more involved in the discussion. You have to have an assignment that you hand out to them and let them work on. You have to change. And I guess that's innovation, or maybe it's just change. And so not only has the delivery systems of college education changed, but the classroom delivery has changed. And Dr. Ritter, I don't know, I've got a whole lot more I could talk about and all the changes that I've seen in education in the last 40-something years, but I don't want to dominate the conversation and let you talk about it a little bit, or some other industry that you're involved with.
Yeah, Dr. Tucker, I think you described the changes in education in a very important and impactful way, and I happen to agree. You've been an educator much longer than I have. I spent half my career in business and industry, and I can tell you, I think Adriana would appreciate this, the field of marketing has changed dramatically. When I was in the industry as a marketing manager and director of marketing, there was a lot more travel involved, getting on a plane and meeting with the client and the customer and business partners. Now everything is done remotely in a variety of ways, which makes sense. But the entire delivery of marketing strategy has changed with social media and social marketing and all the innovations that we've seen in how organizations market themselves using the internet, using technology. The entire industry has really changed dramatically, although there are still some elements that are important. It's meeting the client and customer needs, it's delivering what you promise, it's helping organizations market and develop brand awareness and strategic initiatives in an effective way. I could say the same things in the field of certainly management consulting and healthcare, how they've changed over the years since I was involved with those sectors. Many innovations, many changes, how, for example, in healthcare, how records are stored. For many years, organizations had huge file cabinets or rooms filled with paper files. Now with electronic health records and all the technology, everything is essentially available at your fingertips. And since then, HIPAA rules and regulations have come into place to protect privacy. So, and that involves a significant amount of technology and oversight. So I think things have changed dramatically over time. We could look at just about any sector or any industry and how things have changed. The automobile industry and robotics and smart chips have changed the entire dynamic of that industry as well. So I don't want to get too far off the topic, but it's kind of interesting that we're discussing this, and I think it's certainly appropriate.
Yeah. I don't know, Dr. Ritter, if we want to make that distinction between innovation and change, but to me, there is a bit of difference there. Although one of my favorite quotes about change and innovation is from old coach John Wooden. He used to, he's deceased now, but he used to coach at UCLA head basketball coach at UCLA for many years. And what he used to say was, to improve, you have to change, but not all change is improvement. And so if we're going to progress, if we're going to do better next year than we're doing this year, we got to change something. Something's got to move. Something's got to be different.
Well, yeah. I did actually read his autobiography, and it was fascinating. But you can't argue with the winner. Yep. And he made sure that the uniforms were neat, the shoelaces were tied correctly, that the student athletes got rest, they did well in their classes, and they had to perform at high levels across the board if they wanted to maintain their position with the team. And again, you can't argue with success in those championships. But I do see great similarities between change and innovation. I think they're related in the sense that both will impact organizations, and many individuals and organizations are sometimes not ready to embrace change, and I think or new innovations rather. And I think again, it comes back to communication and identifying champions in terms of what we're doing and why we're doing it. And we want support and engagement, and believe in the long term this is the best for the organization. So I see a lot of similarities, but I understand your point about the distinction as well.
Well, and Adriana's first question was about how do you foster a culture of innovation? How do you do that? And I've got some notes here that we can talk about, but one of the first ways to foster a culture of innovation is encouraging people to change. You got to change something. In my field of education, I tell my students and teachers, don't teach the same course the same way every single time, even if it's successful. Even if you have a course and this applies to a business, even if you have a product that is successful, it's profitable, it's doing well. The process by which you make it is about as efficient as you can make it. Every single period or so, every single year, you got to change something. You got to say, we need to improve. We got to be innovative. I'm not sure if this change is going to be successful. I'm not sure, but we need to change, because if we don't change, we're just going to be in this stasis. We're going to be in this this place where we are complacent and unchanging, and we don't want to get there. We don't want to be there. So every single semester, every single year, a leader has to encourage his employees to change. And I think you mentioned a while back about being safe with that. Okay, we're going to try this. We're going to change this. Now, after we've changed it, we've got to measure it. We've got to see whether or not this change that we have implemented is actually improving efficiency through lower costs. Is it improving sales through increased sales? Is it improving our profitability? Those are the measures that you have to follow through with to see if the changes that you implemented are in fact innovative, or they're just change that caused more problems than it was worth.
So great points, David. The alignment of change and innovation is really quite interesting. I think the other factor, again, whether it's education or the business sector or the healthcare industry, doesn't really matter. I think the primary focus needs to be on empowering employees, generating ideas and suggestions, individuals not being concerned or afraid about putting forth ideas as extreme as they may be. Let's consider all options and let's look at what we can reasonably manage, and let's engage in what we think is best for the short term, and then consider long-term change and innovation, and hopefully we'll have an element of success that will lead to ongoing innovation. I think that's really quite important, again, regardless of the sector. We've had a good discussion that really embraces some of the key factors that need to be considered, again, regardless of the industry or sector. And I think at this point, conversations as we embrace changes in the 21st century will continue to innovate, and those organizations that take the lead and are willing to make the investment and have the support of their employees will inevitably advance and achieve success, while others who sit by and watch organizations or competitors move forward are really in essence moving backwards. So I think I believe we established that. And David, I don't know your perspective.
No, I think it is. If I had to put a conclusion on our discussion, I would say first off that you need to create within your organization a safe environment for innovation. Nobody knows when you implement an innovation if it is going to be successful or not, and we can't innovate something, it fail, and then we blame the people who were champions of that innovation. You've got to create a safe environment for innovation. Dr. Ritter mentioned something early on in the discussion, that you also have to be patient with innovation. Sometimes innovations take a while to percolate and find favor with the customers, and so it takes a while to do that. I think you also a thing is you have to be looking out. You have to always be aspiring to be innovative. A lot of innovation comes from internal sources within the organization, but you've got to have people that are also externally oriented, that can look at other organizations and see what other organizations are doing. Not necessarily those in your same business, but people who are in other businesses, and you can see them with an innovation that you can extract from them and apply to your organization. You also need to have a whole lot of different people looking at your organization. You've also got to make sure you don't have blind spots. We all have things that are our favorite thing to do, and we like it so much that we don't even question it. And so make sure that you've got people who will question even basic assumptions about who it is, about what the innovation will accomplish. And the main thing, though, is just to focus on innovation, to be a proactive, innovative, a company that aspires to innovation is a core value of what it is that an innovative company is and can be successfully.
David, great points. I would just add there's an element of risk involved, which is necessary to advance. And organizations and individuals can't be afraid to fail. Sometimes through failure, you learn great lessons and you're able to advance and overcome that failure. So, but points well stated, David. Thank you.
Thank you for journeying with us today on Keiser Voices, the story of success. As we close this chapter, remember, every story has its next page.